Fireside chat with Oscar Brodkin Sportradar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us here on stage. It looks like we have a lovely crowd here. We're going to have some fun. This is a very casual conversation that I'm going to have. I'm going to introduce to you guys who we have in front of you if you did not hear it from Ola. But just real quick, everyone, you guys, I'm JD, a retired pro athlete. I do not play anymore. Ola, quick correction. I dabble a little bit, content creating. I have a media business, Let It Fly Entertainment, yada, yada, yada. But more importantly, I want to talk about something more important, really excited to go behind the curtain and layers of sports really shaping the future, which is data. And, what we have here in front of us today is, Oscar Brodkin, the EVP, and MD for APAC for Sportradar. So, Oscar, welcome.
Thank you very much, Jared. And pleasure to be on the stage with you. I was watching your highlights this morning. You're a killer, man. Absolutely, mate. Check them out, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm Oscar. I live in Singapore. I'm in charge of APAC for Sportradar. And we're the biggest sports data company for bookmakers, media, all over the world. So, fantastic to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
No, yeah, that's great. I mean, let's kind of just, before we get into the deep, cool, hard-hitting questions that I was wanting to get my my thoughts on, or your thoughts more importantly, I know you just kind of gave a little overview of what Sportradar is, but for the people who aren't really in the trenches with data, can you kind of explain what Sportradar is?
So we're a NASDAQ-listed company, the GOAT, or possibly the second GOAT. No, the GOAT. MJ is a shareholder and an advisor, and we basically create, package, redistribute sports data all over the world. So the classic one that you've all seen is when there's a goal scored in a match or a basketball scored in a match, and you'll have seen the live match tracker with the points changing. That button is clicked by us, and we have scouts all over the world, and including, of course, the NBA and a few other organizations. So initially we created data, and we turned that into products, and of course many people consume our products. Bookmakers, casinos, media organizations. So anything related to sports and data, we collect it and we distribute it.
No, oh man, you already have some questions I want to ask later on. Now, being said, you guys collect data, you push it out to companies, whatever industry that may be. Outside of the companies, let's talk about sports fans. Let's talk about just the regular Joe Schmo. Would you feel that there's any misunderstandings, again, just about sports data in general?
I think that sports fans and even pro athletes don't realize the level of data that bookmakers expect, and also the end punter expects. For instance, even as far as 15 years back, people were crunching the numbers on how long a trip was of a player going overseas. If he's traveled 12 hours, he's going to be tired, he's not going to perform his best level, we adjust his supremacy by 1 or 2 points. So even, that was 15 years ago.
That's crazy.
Now we're going all the way into what's the chances of success in a pick and roll? How's he good on the left side versus the right side? So the level of data that is expected in markets now is completely transforming, of course, with AI, which I'm sure we'll get to.
For sure. No, that's so fascinating. I did not even fathom when you already start speaking about the length of trips traveling from one destination to the other. Because as an athlete myself, that does carry a lot of weight depending how long you're sitting in an airplane or a bus. I didn't even know that would be something you would consider factoring in, but okay, of course, Sportradar, you guys do it all. That's so cool. Okay, let's shift a little bit here. We're talking about humans versus data. And again, I keep telling you guys, I used to play sports as an athlete myself, so I kind of feel torn about this. And when I mean torn, I'm talking about there's data, and then there's athlete, where there's instincts, there's emotions, there's drive, will that I can just grab deep down from under. And I don't know if that really relates to data in its say, but my question is really, do you see data overpowering or overwhelming athletes at this point, given what I'm saying? Like, what's your vibe on this instinct versus data?
Yeah, so all the data is being collected, whether people want it or not, right? Like, it's coming, and it's in every market, every sport at a granular level, and that's being fed in. Now, should you listen to the data to being able to predict a game or predict when someone's injured or going to be injured? Absolutely. Is it going to influence the tactics of every single match from here on in? Possibly not. It's a bit in between. It's kind of like if you go to a casino, there are people that follow the numbers on the board, and there are people who just go with their gut.
True.
There are some people who will always be convinced that the gut says what's going to happen and not necessarily listen to the numbers. Which one were you?
No, you're right. I mean, overall, like, given what I just said, I mean, the data, especially these days, it's so on point in so many nuances and avenues that you can think. But on the flip side of it, I'll give it a real case example. I know there's not all basketball heads here, but there's a player called Jimmy Butler. And his nickname, Jimmy Buckets. When he turns into the playoffs, all of a sudden he can shoot threes. All of a sudden he can do a lot of these things that you can't really compute, because like, how does he turn that up? So I find that very fascinating.
Yeah, the clutch.
The clutch
is so
gene.
interesting. I think I read a stat on Tiger Woods. It's something like 90-something% of all his playoff rounds, he's always won, right?
Crazy.
And that's
crazy.
The expected is 50 or even a three-way. So I think clutch is always going to mean it. It means something. And the interesting part is when the data shows that someone is clutch, can you predict it more and more?
That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Is there a clutch gene analytic?
Definitely, 100%.
Cool.
Is there a clutch
That's so
thing?
cool.
Yeah. And players are clutch. Absolutely
Sure.
proven to be clutch. Of course, you could take the most basic free throw. Are they 93%?
Yeah, right.
And then you start measuring it. Is it playoffs versus not playoffs? There's enough of a sample size now in free throws to say whether someone is clutch in a playoff game or a meaningful game. Or what about free throws that are not in an important context, just in the game's over? So I think there's so much data to be crunched now. People are doing all sorts with it. We sell to businesses, but even private individuals are finding that data and doing something with it.
Okay. Being said, I think this leads to my next question, which is something I really want to know on a personal basis. So I'm being selfish here, everyone. You guys are going to have to bear with me. So we're talking about data. We're talking about athlete data, the relationship between ownership, right? So example, I'm an athlete. I'm going to shoot all these buckets. I make three-pointers. I miss them. Free throws. That's my data, right? And I would like to think there's some ownership in that's mine. But someone like Sportradar or the betting companies, they're using my data to profit out of it and to utilize it, for what they do. I'm not saying that's bad, but where do you feel the athlete relationship with data in terms of monetization will be going moving forward?
Yeah, it's interesting. We do the deals with the leagues, right?
Yeah.
So our partners are NBA, NHL, MLB, FIFA, UEFA, right? We always partner with the leagues rather than the private for the image rights. And what we would obviously encourage is that the athlete, works privately with those image,
right,
to sell their own image rights. For instance, the NIL, in the US now.
NIL deals.
NIL. It's more, we buy the overall data package.
Yes.
When it comes to a specific player's rights, that's not our commercial deal. That's for the player in the league to work out. It's the same with football, same with other sports as well. That
makes sense. And I think I kind of led down this lane thinking it's on you guys, and that's not what I was alluding to. I think it's important for athletes understanding, like you said in the very beginning of this discussion, on how important and how grand having data is and how you can utilize data. So if you're an athlete and you're producing data, it's like you need to be aware. You need to understand what to do with this data and how to utilize it, right, in such a way where you're benefiting from your data, right?
Yeah, and of course now with the increase in player markets, those players have markets specifically tied to their name. Over under rebounds, over under steals. You know, you can go all the way granular. You know, success of even pick and rolls, etc. So, so their names are out there, but it's still the leagues and the betting providers who are creating that content. It's an interesting one for the future, though.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. That's something like a big, like I wish we had 2 hours so we can really go down into that, but you know, let's shift it a little bit off of this. I do want to talk about betting in sports and integrity, and you guys really serve, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because this is my outside view looking into this, because I'm not an expert, but you know, you guys deal with so many different industries, and we're, you know, betting companies, right? That's a big deal in sports. And when we talk about betting, data, let's say the leagues, sports, there's always going to be a sense of fixing, something that we don't like to talk about. It ruins the game, it ruins people's businesses, but it's there. It's like a big pink elephant in the room. Now, you guys get all this data, and you can see, I would imagine, who's fixing or how these things would work. I'm sure in some way. Can you kind of expound on like how sports betting, it's exploding, but how does Sportradar navigate through that type of stuff with fixing and all those things?
So fixing's been around since the Roman times, and the Greek times. You know, wrestling, etc. And then of course the Black Sox scandal in baseball in
1900s.
1900s, exactly. 1920, 1980. So it's always there, and now with the explosion of betting and of course lower tier content, it's going to happen. What's important is it's monitored, tackled, and the problem is talked about openly, like we're doing here. So we're monitoring 800,000 matches a year, 800,000.
Crazy.
And we suggest that somewhere between 0.5 and 1% of those games could be fixed. Right?
Okay.
So it's a small percentage, 1 in 200 games, but when a game's fixed, you know, the league loses credibility, and that's why they partner to monitor it, detect it, investigate it, and then, of course, sanction, and players get banned for life. And my favorite, you know, if any federations are listening, the ones that really own it and do something about it and ban the players for life, they're the ones to be respected, and the ones who cover it up, you know, in the end, their league won't really be worth talking about.
That's so fascinating, and we're not here on the witch's stake hunt to, I want names, I want the names of the leagues, let us know. We're not here, maybe it's a different discussion, but I'm sure you guys can see it internally, which leagues or organizations are covering it up or not, and I'm sure.
I'll tell you a story. We were monitoring a game once in Europe in around 2011.
Okay.
And we looked at the betting, and it looked like the fix was on. And we were absolutely sure that the game had been fixed, but the result didn't come in. The game finished 0-0, but the team was supposed to lose 3-0. It turns out later that one of the players gave some sleeping tablets to his strikers at halftime. One of them went off injured, you know, because he couldn't play.
Yeah.
The other two kind of played through it, a bit groggy, etc.
Yeah.
And but they still managed to draw the game and not lose it.
Oh man, dude!
There's always a story.
There's always a story. Oh, I got so many stories. I wish I could just tell right now, but oh my god! And I'm like, I'm already processing. Like, oh my god, that kind of makes sense for this one time. And oh my gosh, what? No, thanks for sharing that with us. That's so interesting. Now, okay, betting integrity. At least I got my cup filled. Let's kind of keep this moving forward. We are getting near short on time. I think we have a 30-minute discussion here. So we got about 10 more minutes to keep going, but you know, I'm having a good time. The new media world, new digital age. People are not watching TV, we're watching YouTube. Communities are more geared towards creator-led people, content creators, if you will. That's kind of what Generation Z is leaning toward, but I guess in the world, that's what a lot of people are leaning towards. Where does Sportradar fit in that? You guys work with big brands, I get it, but it's kind of moving differently now, the digital world, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, so content creators, absolutely massive. Some of the biggest B2C platforms in the world are using content creators to push sports, particular casino games. They're original. So we know that content creators are massive. Because we're B2B and we work with all the biggest bookmakers in the world, we want to speak with content creators who are going to make our end customers money. There's no point pushing a content creator, who's cool and that, but we want to work with them to possibly add value to the bookmaker, right? That can work, and it's happening all over. The question is are the punters really listening to the creator to influence their bets, or do they? At the moment, it's around 50-50. Some of them are just saying, my favorite celebrity bets on it, I'll bet on it. Some of them say, no, I want to do it my own way.
Sure.
And we also broker some of those brand ambassador deals. So you might see some big brand ambassadors who want to be the front of shirt, or we will broker those deals. But yeah, fascinating space. It's only popped up over the last, say, 5 years. Just around COVID.
It really started gearing up. Yeah.
Within the last. You're in that. You're one
I'm in it. I'm in there. Yeah, it's getting crazy. No, that's very fascinating. I mean, do you think big creators are really becoming the new, like, broadcasters for people? Like you said, because you dived a little bit on it about the influence. Do they really get people to persuade their bets? Moving forward, is that, you think, really becoming the new thing?
Yeah, it's interesting because the creators don't necessarily own the rights. So, for instance, if they want to stream a big basketball game, they need to purchase the rights to be able to layer on top. That's a discussion they're going to have because they can't take that content and not pay for it. So are they going to be the new age of media? It hasn't happened yet. TV companies are big. Betting streaming on platforms is really big. So some of the biggest guys and the biggest bookmakers in the world have a great streaming audience. But it's coming. There's some kind of movement here where those creators have such an unbelievable following on several platforms. There are 5 or 6 of these platforms. I think it needs to be addressed, especially on the rights topic.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. Dang, we're running out of time, you guys. Let's keep the train moving. I do want to hear what your thoughts are on a regional standpoint, because you're in charge here in the APAC region. Being with Sportradar for such a long time at this point, would you say I'm sure there is. The answer is yes, but I'm sure there are differences that you would have to incorporate and do here as opposed to the U.S. or the Europe. Being here in APAC for so long, very crypto savvy, more so here in Asia than like in Europe or U.S. Well, U.S. is getting a little bit better now since Trump came. How does it different? How does it differentiate? How do you go about that?
I mean, they say that there's 47 countries in Asia, so there must be 47 languages. There are thousands of languages, as you know here.
Yeah,
even in this country, so it's not just one continent, right? It's all of so different cultures, different methods of adoption. It's completely different to the US. You could possibly compare it to South America, maybe, and Brazil is massively opening up. But Asia, I mean, look what's happening. So Philippines has done the right thing, regulating everything.
Yep.
And, things are going well. There's a lot of new businesses that have sprouted and jobs, etc. And some of the other countries are following swiftly behind. We've got Sri Lanka coming, open for business. We've got UAE is talking about legalizing now, which is obviously the gateway to the world, halfway between Asia and Europe. So, we treat Asia, that's part of the reason I'm here, but of course we have a lot of support, and we have an office in Singapore, and what we like the different cultures and of course the languages, and you need the appropriate staff to take advantage of it.
That must be so difficult, trying to manage just the different cultures and languages. I'm just curious on a standpoint like, well, how big is your APAC team? Because that's so many different cultures and regions you'd have to really manage or try to connect the dots. I'm just curious.
We've got 4,000 overall, and we've got quite a few hundred in Asia.
Yeah.
So you've got to be ready for anything. When someone's legalizing betting like they're discussing in the UAE, Sri Lanka, you've got to be ready. You've got to mobilize. You can't just get there and say, hey, we're Sportradar and nobody's heard of us. You've got to lay the groundwork, which is what we're doing now, all over. And you've got to adapt to the sports. Obviously, we know Philippines and the love affair with basketball. But, in Thailand, it's sepak takraw and Muay Thai. In various different sports, it's badminton. In Indonesia, for instance, is heavy on badminton. Mm-hmm. In India, 400 million people watch the kabaddi final. And, a lot of people have never even seen a kabaddi game. It's like American football without the ball, if I can explain it like
I
that.
got to look this up. American football without the ball? That
Yeah.
sounds awesome.
Yeah.
They're tackling, destroying each other, just full on.
It's
Oh, I got to watch that.
A mix between British Bulldog wrestling and American football with no ball. Kabaddi.
Okay. Man, when you said British to Bulldog, I was thinking old school WWE stuff already, bro. For the young guys, you guys have no idea what we're talking about. No, I appreciate that. I think, I want to shift back a little bit. I know we still have about 10 minutes, and I'm really still fascinated about athlete data versus IP, something I still want to touch base on, and then we're going to kind of lead forward into, the future. I would love to hear, eventually when I ask it about future stuff, what do you think, where's Sportradar going? But to back it up, back on the whole athlete data as an IP, you guys sit on so much data about the athlete, right? And like myself, like so many athletes, we don't even know that we're generating this crazy amount of data, right? I know we've been touching base on it a little bit, but I would like to pick your brain on this, on how do you see them figuring out how to own it and how to monetize it? Like, if athletes are listening, what are the steps to owning and monetizing their data?
So firstly, a lot of athletes are using our data with our coaching and analytics. So, you've got teams in the B League. We're collecting the data. I mean sports data, not personal data. And then they're using that to analyze their performance. So you have teams like usual. When you're talking about betting data, betting rights, there are various jurisdictions around the world. For instance, in the Philippines, I don't know the particular rule on players and where their data feeds through to the market. I suggest you speak with the IP in the leagues, of course, right? For Sportradar itself, like I said, we work with licensed bookmakers and casinos. We work with the leagues. We pay a ton of money to the leagues, right?
Right.
If they're listening, they're great partners. And that money really does filter down to the, we're paying to league rights holders all over the world. That money is filtering down to the players. Is it individualized with your name on it, each one?
Yeah.
That's a conversation to have.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I wanted to get some real gut-wrenching answers, like how an individual athlete can go about it. Because in the beginning, I did understand what you're saying, and I can't believe that missed my mind. And what I'm trying to say, everyone, is if I'm an athlete negotiating my contract to my team, I'm going to get data, my stats, to prove that, hey, I'm worth a lot of money. Look at my stats. See? Look, they're good, right? I think that's the obvious answer here. That's duh, of course. But I guess on a more really technical level on just owning the data in itself, because again, I'm a big crypto guy, so everything about digital ownership, that stuff is yours. I'm just curious on how that would work if I'm an individual wanting to own my data, and then I can sell it to use it as negotiation for my team, but how else can you kind of utilize that towards other businesses or companies?
There could be a time when betting markets are high, or possibly custom games are created that are hyper-focused around an athlete, if it's allowed by the particular league. Of course, betting on the league comes with certain, integrity issues, so we have to discuss that as well. But and then also athletes are allowed to sign brand ambassador deals. Sometimes it's retired players, or sometimes it's active players. It depends. For instance, some of the cricket teams in West Indies, they allow their active players to sell brand ambassadors. Some leagues do not.
Right.
So it's all individualized depending on the legalities and, of course, the rights, who owns the rights, and what are those rights holders doing.
No, that makes sense. Okay. No, I mean, I think, would be, I guess just having fun with this. If I was an athlete and there's someone like you guys with all this data, rich data that's valuable, important, I would love to see a way in Sportradar where I can access a dashboard, per se, of myself, right? Where I can see my performance, I can see my fan engagement, I can see all these metrics, all betting and all put into one, and I can kind of gauge my value off of something like that.
That's really interesting. So, we do audio-visual streaming for bookmakers all over the world.
Right.
And it's probably never been tested that why were people watching. Let's say you make your debut again for a team in Vietnam.
Yep.
And then it spiked.
Goes up.
Why is that? And that's important currency.
Yeah, that's big.
But usually, just going back a bit, the data we collect is technically open source, right? So it's not some hidden data. Anyone can do it. We just have the fastest feeds out there in the market because they're official, because we sign with the rights holder, right? But in terms of, owning that IP, that's, of course, for you to negotiate. And, that could be a way forward. If you can determine your brand value by the amount of streams you're getting or the amount of comments within a bookmaker's live chat,
right?
That's starting to get interesting.
Right? I think so too, because now you would have more ammunition as an athlete or whoever that has this data. Let's say my stats are crap, but people relate to me. People like me. Every time I go to a venue, people buy my jerseys, and like you said, the fan engagement's off the charts. You can't. It's hard. It's a hard conversation to convince a team something like that when they can kind of shove in your face. No, look at your stats. You're like the 10th player on the on the depth chart in scoring. Like, we can't give you that type of money, right?
Yeah, or are you the best, most betted player market within that list?
That
right?
too. Everyone bets on you.
So that data should be available. It will be available, but obviously we only have a certain amount of customers.
Sure.
We can't see every player betting on your player or whoever. But that's a really good one to go down. Like, especially as player markets, bet builders. Have you heard of bet builders, where you can bet multiple bets within a bet? So you can say, like, I want a player to score over the amount of points, someone to score under rebounds, and you combine it all in one. So now that increase is leading to people being more interested in players.
That's cool. That's so cool, man. We got a couple minutes here, so I think the last thing I really want to talk about here is just the future of sports radar. I think the fun one I want to get out of the way is, it's 2030. It's year a little bit 6 years down the line or so. What bet would you make about where sports radar is going to be at that time, from 5-10 years down the road?
I reckon when the dust settles on AI, and we work out whether it's a mirage or real adding value to bookmakers and media partners, I think that we will say we won the AI race. So we're providing real value to the end user using AI. That could be internal processes, or it could be products. For instance, we have a personalized sportsbook. So you log into your betting app. Every single person who logs in gets a different experience, just like Netflix.
Cool.
So that's all driven by AI. So that's one example.
That's cool.
But we only got ChatGPT a year ago.
Sure.
What's it going to be like in 3 years?
Yeah, right. That's going to be crazy. And God, we're in this weird, not weird, but we're in this tech bubble with AI. So just AI is getting thrown in our face all over the place, right? So it's everywhere. And I'm sure, my humble opinion, I'm sure there will be some type of crash out on AI to some extent, because it's just all over the freaking place right now. And there is so many applications on how it helps, and it does work, obviously. But I wonder, how do you find, I guess, utilizing AI on what you do or what Sports Radar does?
So you don't want to bombard, right? If you notice with the scrolling apps, the user gets to choose.
Sure.
But when you send 15 emails generated by AI, nobody's reading them. So obviously, it has its utilization, but it has its uses, but it's how you use it to the customers. So obviously, it could lead to cheaper pricing because you have lower operational costs. It could lead to deeper markets, which it is doing already. Personalized experiences, working with streamers. It all combines together. But if you continue to bombard, I think the user will get tired of it in a short amount of time.
No, I can agree with you. I think with AI, I think the more we make it feel invisible, where it's just working under the scenes, I think that's of value. But when it's being pushed in your face and you feel like a robot's talking to you and you're kind of getting thrown off, that's not human, and man, what the heck? I think there's a little issue with that, I would say. But
so if you could log in to your favorite betting app or your favorite broadcast, and your personalized statistics on your favorite player are being pushed to you, because it knows, it doesn't think.
That's cool.
Based on your history, which you've done, I think that's the best way. if you're sending hundreds of briefs to someone or emails, it's spamming. We're all going to get bored of it. So it's definitely coming. It's happening already. And we're seeing some success already with it.
Awesome. Well, Oscar, man, I really appreciate you being such a good sport and answering some of these questions. I really had on my mind that I wanted your thoughts on, since you're, with Sportradar and what you guys do for so many different industries. So I really appreciate you, sharing your knowledge and time with us. And everyone here, thanks for listening in. I hope you guys had a good time just as much as we did, and enjoy the rest of the event. And thank you for your time, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.